Second here. Would like to call the May 27th, 2021 special meeting to order. Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Organelli.
Here.
Oniski.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Adams.
Here.
Alley.
I'm expecting him, so
Okay.
we'll just wait till he gets in.
Bean.
Yes.
Beltrandy.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Figgy.
Here.
Flaherty.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Matthews Kane.
Here.
Mello.
Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. Communications from the mayor. First one is the presentation of the fiscal year 2022 budget by Mayor Humison. The mayor is present, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to your members of the council. I'm also joined by Vicki Merrill, our auditor, and she'll have answers to questions if you have any about our numbers. I'm very pleased to present the fiscal year 2022 budget to the council tonight. It's a very different year than it was a year ago. If you remember, we were in the middle of the pandemic, and the state aid had not come in until December of last year. We were worried about local aid receipts being low. We were worried about a lot of things. Some of those worries materialized, others did not. This year, it's a very different year, and we're hopeful that the next fiscal year will be much, much better. This budget sees some modest growth and increase over last year, and yet we did not include any kind of a tax rate increase. So I thought that might be good news to those residents of the city and those businesses, especially our residents who are on fixed incomes and the folks who suffered during the pandemic. So if that is also the will of the council, we might be able to deliver them 2 years of some tax relief in a row, which is pretty good. We did try to do a number of things that in this budget that we weren't able to do last year. If you remember, for example, OPEB, other post-employment benefits. Last year in the budget, I think I put $20,000 in there. That is a mere speck of what the city is actually supposed to be putting in. This year, recognizing that, we made a somewhat larger payment in the budget of $200,000. Debt decline, something else that we had talked about. I think you talked about in finance committee meeting, or maybe it was the bonding committee. We included $1.2 million in the budget. Things like things that I know are priorities of the council as well as my own, things like the master plan, which we've talked about for many years as a city, I did not include in the budget because we thought that being a sort of a one-time cost, instead of including it in the budget, we pulled it out, and we'll be coming to you as a council, we'll come to you with a request for appropriation from free cash. So it's still a priority, but I don't think we want to include it in the operating budget. I do ask for a draw from free cash this year of $2 million. You'll remember last year we agreed to do 1.5 million. This year I'm asking for 2. We had approached the school committee with a request. The school committee voted not to accept that request by a vote of 4 to 3. And so that kind of threw our budget numbers out of whack a little bit by about $1 million. So we went back, the auditor and I went back to look for ways we could find in the existing city side to save some money. We found some, but we decided that this being important, and I remember what Councilor Sullivan said last year when he was mayor, he made a way to find money for the schools. So I decided to ask you for a $2 million drawdown with the understanding, I think, that we expect this year to be a pretty good year financially, and there will be money, I believe, that will be going, that we're not accounting for right now, that will end up going back into our free cash. So that, in fact, isn't a full drawdown. We'll replace a lot of that. For example, our budget doesn't contain any marijuana money, even though we have healthy receipts from the one of the four marijuana retail facilities in Westfield right now, and those receipts are coming in very strong, but we're not accounting for them anywhere in the budget. So they will be, that revenue will go into free cash and probably make up for what we're taking out. Let me look and see what else. Believing that infrastructure is still important, we sought to increase the revenue or the payment to engineering so that they could design more projects, especially with ARPA coming down the pike. Some of you will know that Congressman Neal came to Westfield today, and some of you were in the office earlier when the mayor talked about ARPA money coming to the city of Westfield and other cities and towns. We're not exactly sure how much of that will actually end up being available to the city, but that will certainly, especially in the areas that we hope to spend it, certainly help to offset some of the typical costs that we would normally look to do. Other things like the infrastructure bond bill that will be coming out of Washington, D.C., we hope that we'll be able to use that money in engineering and in infrastructure projects. And obviously, I want to give a tip of the hat to Mark Crosati in his office, and obviously Fran Kane in the DPW for the work that they've been doing in the city with paving streets locally and working on infrastructure here in the city. If you drive around Westfield, I think you'll notice not just our main roads, but a lot of the neighborhoods are seeing attention that I know is a priority for me and certainly a priority for you as individual councilors, and not just in our wards, but also across the city. So that's a good thing. We do increase a number of positions. There were, even last year during the pandemic, there were no layoffs on the city side. We were able to avoid any kind of layoffs with any of our departments, but there were some positions that went unfilled. This year, I think our budget adds 4 new positions. We wanted to put some new people in IT because information technology has been exceptionally busy and needs the help. The building department, and we've talked about Carissa being sort of by herself down there and needing another inspector. There's also hope that by having a second building inspector, that will help us to realize some revenue with inspections and fines if there are building codes that aren't met. Another individual in the personnel office so that our personnel director can focus on trainings and other things and not just the day-to-day administration of the office, but actually training of our municipal employees to help stave off any incidents that may end up costing the city money. And finally, someone in the Department of Public Health, and I think we recognize that their office has been exceptionally busy as well. I'm looking at my notes. I don't have anything else that I specifically wanted to mention, but I know that I'm very happy to answer questions if you have any. And if I can't answer them, I'll ask Vicki to do that. And if we can't get you the answers tonight, we'll certainly be happy to get them to you as soon as possible. So, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to start with finance first, just for a organizational thing here. I know Councilor Sullivan had his hand up. Go ahead, Councilor Sullivan.
I would yield to the chair if he had a question. Okay, I'll save all the other questions I think I've got for the subcommittee meetings. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you and the auditor. Just wondering what the thought process is in not accounting for the marijuana money, which you've at least got a pretty good track record of what that is, as opposed to accounting for that and taking less out of free cash.
Vicki, do you want to take that, or I can just answer?
No, sure. We get guidance every year just about this time from the Department of Local Services, Department of Revenue, and that was one of their guidance bullet points in the document saying that we really shouldn't be using marijuana revenue if it's new to the city or to a town, to a community, until we have 2 years worth of revenue so we can predict what they potentially could be, in the future. So I'm, just trying to follow the guidance that, we get from the Department of Revenue on budgets for this coming up year.
And Mayor, as you look in your crystal ball here, with just about a month to the close,
Yeah.
what are you estimating? Understanding that's all it is, and things can certainly change, but what's your best estimate in terms of what the city will end for a free cash position for fiscal 21?
The total amount of free cash that will be available, I think if we're allowed to use the $2 million, that after that there will be 1.9 million remaining in free cash. But that's obviously up to council. So right now that means that we have just under $4 million in free cash.
Right, but then you're going to close out the year, so you know what accounts are running with surpluses or not. So what's the estimate for the closeout of 21?
Well, we would also be taking snow and ice out of that, which is about $841,000. I haven't looked at to see what those predictions could be, but I can definitely do that calculation tomorrow and get that back to you. If we were to take the 2 million and the 841,000, it leaves you with a carryover, a little over $1 million that you would carry over to next year, plus whatever you closed out of 21.
Right. So when you get that closeout number, I'd like to know what that is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor.
Counselor Figgy?
No, my hand's not up.
Oh, you're good. Oh, well, I thought it was. Okay. Counselor Flaherty, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree with Councilor Sullivan. Knowing that number as soon as possible is a good thing. We looked at the year-to-date reports that we got a few weeks ago, and there was optimism in that, to say the least.
Yeah.
But when we saw how much money was left, the school department is about $6 million behind spend. But it sounds like they do some year-end stuff to pay people during the summer and a couple of other things that might swing that. But it looks like we have a fairly healthy free cash number coming in again next year. Not that we want to bet the farm on that, but it looks pretty good. I thank you for all the work. Mr. Mayor, my job is to, question these things and to pursue, my priorities. And
Of course.
I'm a little surprised with some of the choices. And this is about $6 million new spending. If you look at the bottom lines, that's a big number. Though the tax rate may not change, it's only because we have a significantly higher property values due to this bubble in the market. We're actually raising taxes almost $2 million in this plan as proposed. We're taking $2 million out of free cash, again, to cover operating expenses. That $2 million is not going to capital, it's going to operating. And last year we did $1.5 million to operating. This year we're $2 million operating. That pattern can't continue. We can't continue to spend more than we're likely to raise. We have to find ways to address this. And I know it's a big, big challenge, and every single department feels that they're doing as much as they can, but frankly, it's not enough, and the financial long-term picture is still not good. The 200,000 into OPEB is a great, move. It's a step in the right direction. But those of you who looked at the OPEB report that was just posted, the numbers changed $87 million. Our liability went up $87 million in the last cycle. 87 million. That's more than the budget for the school, more than the rest of the city, more than we bring in taxes. In one cycle time of evaluation in the OPEB fund, the deficit went up $87 million. We now, just on OPEB alone, are over $350 million net present value. That's not what we owe over the long term. That's what we're supposed to have right today. And so adding an extra 200,000 is great, but not when you compare it to losing $87 million. So this is a real serious problem that we have to address, and we can't keep pushing it off. The pension system, as I've said before, is still not on track. When I came in council, the deficit was 60-something million. It's now over 100 million. Yet every single time they do an evaluation, they tell us they're going to be on track, and the stock market has done great in the last 10 years. There's something wrong in their calculations, and it's putting great pressure on the city. I believe every single employee deserves those benefits that are being promised to them. And by passing a budget that repeatedly kicks this can down the road, we're not taking care of employees, and we're screwing the long-term taxpayers by deferring these obligations onto them and their kids and their grandkids. So I'd like to see us address that somehow. I know nobody wants to make hard choices, and it's a tough year coming out of COVID, but $6 million in new spending is a big deal. $2 million in new taxes to people that have, had a really rough year. That's a big deal. So I'd like to see some changes. I don't know how possibly we can do this, but I know we have to try. So that's what I'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. I hope we can get some support to make some changes. And I know there are no easy choices and people are going to be mad, but this isn't, something we want to pass on to the next generation of kids. Thank you.
Thank
Councilor,
you, Councilor Flaherty.
unless Mr. Mayor, you want to address that at all, I can go to Bill. That's fine.
No, I wanted to say thank you. I had actually asked Councilor Flaherty if he'd come in and we could talk a little bit about his ideas about those very same issues that he talked about. It's a problem that's not unique to Westfield. It's a problem that's not unique to the Commonwealth. We have a big obligation out there for our retirees, and it's very important. The question is how to address it. When Standard & Poor's has reviewed Westfield a number of times and keeps coming back with our health is good, our budgeting is good, they like a lot about us, but the one thing they constantly say is that we have the OPEB issue and the retirement issue that we have to address, and that's the one ding that we get each time they review the city.
I just, before I go to Councilor Oniski, and I just remind we highlight it when it goes up, but we don't highlight it when it goes down. So it dropped the last couple of years significantly in the sense of the overall number. So it does fluctuate up and down, and people need to understand that. And if they don't, by all means do the research. And it is an issue.
It's never been 350, never.
No, but it was tremendously low. It dropped tremendously low a couple years back, if we're not mistaken. So I just, apples to apples. That's all I'm saying. Councilor Oniski?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Sullivan took my marijuana question, but I was also looking to see if there was a cheat sheet provided over the last 5 or so years that showed comparisons of the yearly budgets and how the cuts were made for this year's budget. It appeared to be an Excel spreadsheet that someone made. I just don't know if that's available or even where it came from.
I think Councilor Sullivan will call it the Adam Liptak sheet, if I'm not mistaken. But
Well, there was definitely a sheet that we kept track of when we had met with the different departments, and then the different changes that we made internally within the mayor's office and the auditor's office. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. That's more of like our own scratch notes. But Madam Auditor, I don't know if you have something that compares previous years. I think you must, right? Previous year's budgets, proposed final version with this year's version of the budget. But if we do have that, we can certainly provide it.
By department.
Yeah.
I could
I could put that together because there are that cheat sheet, so to speak, each year of the working papers of the mayor and the auditor of what was presented to him, what was cut, what was the final. I would just have to mirror those all together into one, one spreadsheet, but it shouldn't be that difficult to, take whatever years previous and put them together so you can kind of see them going across the page.
Okay, if I can, I'll send it to both of you either tonight or tomorrow. So we're looking at the same sheet instead of me trying to describe it poorly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bill, there is one on there that I saw that had last year's requested, last year's actual, this year's proposed, mayor's cuts, and mayor's final.
Can you tell me where that is, Councilor
I
Flaherty?
found it on the share drive under the FY22 budget directory.
Okay, gotcha. It's not in this package. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I didn't even see the package. Yeah.
Councilor Morganone?
Okay.
No, I think my question was answered. Thank you.
Any other questions for the mayor? Councilor Flaherty, go ahead.
Did somebody else, Bridget, were you going? No, okay.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about school projects, and we talked about using free cash to maybe do a couple things like the swimming pool and other things. I don't see that in here. Is that going to be proposed? And you did mention using it for the master plan, but
Yeah.
from what I understand, if we don't do it in the next few weeks, our free cash is tied up until the fall, so we can't even put it in the budget till then. So why not just throw it in the budget now? If we only need 50 or 100,000, why not throw it in now, call it master plan budget, and get it approved so they can get started?
We were trying to make the budget balance, and there were areas like that we decided to take out to balance the budget, so that, and then because it was a one-time thing and not a repeating operating expense, we decided to put it into a request from free cash. Some of the other things that we talked about, I know there's money in the stabilization fund that we had put in, that you had put in last year, that council had approved. Some of that has obviously been spent, but some of it still exists for projects like the Hillside Road paving and the City View Road paving and the Union Street work. There's also, we had anticipated some of that would be used for the schools. I know it requires 9 votes to get that out, but that would be something that we would have to put together a package to convince you that it was the appropriate use of that fund, of those funds. But the main reason why we didn't put it in, and it was originally in my budget, but we didn't put it in there because we just had to find a way to balance the budget after the school committee vote last week. And that was one of the things that came out.
Well, you know, you can make a cut without the school committee's approval, right? You don't have to do what they vote on.
Yeah, I understand that, but it doesn't make me, I'm not comfortable doing that as also a member of the school committee and having participated in that vote. I kind of feel like, you know, these are the elected people's representatives for the school. They deliberate, they vote, and obviously they vote with the schools foremost in their mind. I didn't think it would be right to then unilaterally exercise whatever mayor authority I have and just disregard that vote. And I hate to ask you to do that as well, obviously, because you have the same thought as I do, I'm sure. But ultimately, you're right. We have to make our budget balanced. And I mean, I'm disappointed with the vote that the committee took, but I'm hopeful that there might be another way to address some of that.
Well, now they know next year they'll ask for 5 million more if nobody's going to challenge them and just do whatever they want. Like really, you know, they're supposed to get guidance. That's, I think, why they were so upset that first meeting, is they didn't feel they received the guidance that other departments did as far as level spending, you know, plus raises. And it's a big challenge. I know everybody wants to keep everybody happy, but these numbers do not look good, and we repeatedly are taking money out of free cash to pay operating, and that's just not a good financial practice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Any other questions or comments for the mayor? Seeing none. Anything else from the mayor or the auditor before we?
Mr. President, I'll say one thing. I also had spoken with Councilor Flaherty, because I remember at one of your meetings a couple of weeks ago, you talked about, maybe a month ago, you talked about bonding issues, and we're working in City Hall about putting together a list of assets and a schedule of those assets to be able to present to the council, most likely at the end of the summer. So you have a complete list. I talked with Tammy Tuft. She had indicated that about 6 or 7 years ago, she and Pete Miller had begun the process of putting that together, had done something, and then obviously time flies and we're now 7 years hence. And the information that she had collected there isn't really usable now. She has a new format that she wants us to use as a city. We're going to talk to the departments and make sure we get that information so it's comparable, so it's, you know, apples to apples, and we'll be able to present that to council. It doesn't have anything to do with the budget, but it is important as far as what the city counts as their physical assets, and we're not just talking buildings and vehicles, but also other things like that we'd like to be able to give you, and I think also that you asked for. So we're putting that together.
That was the capital plan we asked for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said bond plan, right? I meant capital plan. Thank you.
But that is important when we're looking at annual budgets, because part of our annual budget is paying for these long-term projects like roads and schools and pools and stuff like that. So
That's right.
For me, that's very important to be thinking about now. You know, we're making choices about $1 million here and there when, you know, we don't know what the outstanding pile of work is. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, and we have to maintain the city's assets. Obviously, both the buildings and also the vehicles and the other equipment has to be maintained. And there's an operating cost each year, obviously, but we also want to be able to factor those into our capital list.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Great. Appreciate the time, and we'll work through this. And I'm sure if we have any other questions, we'll discuss.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you too. Appreciate working with you, and also super kudos to the new auditor. She's been at this job for less than a year, but she did a tremendous job in meeting with all the department heads and really asking a lot of questions. I think you counselors did a great job when you hired her. She's been a real asset to this team. I appreciate that. So thank you for
Thank you.
good work.
Thanks, Vicki. We appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, we are on, actually, we need a motion, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I'd like to make a motion to refer the budget to finance.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Morganelli,
Yes.
Oniski,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Alley,
Yeah, he never made it.
Bean,
Yes.
Beltrandi,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Figgy,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Mello.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Item 2, Counselor,
You have a
Counselor
question?
Flaherty.
Yeah, motion to post on the city website so the public can see it before the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Another roll call vote, Counselor Flaherty?
I would do a show of hands, it's fine with me.
No, that's fine.
No,
problem.
you're.
Doesn't that happen?
I know.
Governor.
Madam City Clerk?
Morganelli,
Yes.
Oniski,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Bean,
Yes.
Beltrandi,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Figgy,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Mello.
Great, thank you. Item 2, Counselor Sullivan.
Yes, I am going to be moving, the motion I'm going to make is going to be twofold, but it is going to split these grants. So if people have a issue with that, we certainly can discuss it. But I would move the acceptance of the grant of $176,200 from the Mass Aeronautics, which is part of MassDOT, to the airport with a free cash appropriation of $35,240 be referred to finance. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
I think it's pretty straightforward. This is a grant that does have a city match. So we did have a conversation with Chris Willenberg, and if we move it through subcommittee and bring it out the first meeting in June, we are still timely.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Morganelli,
Yes.
Oniski,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Bean,
Yes.
Beltrandi,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Figgy,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Mello.
Counselor Sullivan.
Mr. President, I would move for immediate consideration for the acceptance of the grant from the Mass Aeronautics to the Airport Commission in the amount of $120,100 with a free cash appropriation of $24,020. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
So again, in having discussions with Chris Willenberg, who for the record is on this call, both of these grants are from Mass Aeronautics. They were awarded just recently. In the state, it would be referred to as use it or lose it. So Mass Aeronautics had the sum total of these grants available. I want to congratulate Chris and his commission for having projects that were available to be done and therefore being able to use this money. The trick is that the projects have to be completed by the end of June. This is not carryover money. These projects need to be completed. This particular project is for the demolition of 2 buildings that are currently at the airport. In order to be able to get those buildings remediated from a environmental standpoint and to have that demolition occur by the end of June, they need to start on this immediately. I appreciate the fact that the motion asked us to accept the grants tonight and refer the free cash to committee. However, I don't believe that you can accept a state grant that says you have funding in place if in fact you don't have funding in place. So therefore, I do think that in order to be able to take this grant and certify to the state that the $24,020, which is a 20% city match for the demolition of these buildings, I believe that that does have to be done tonight. And I do believe the request from the mayor is that it come from free cash. So I would look to support this part of the grant request tonight.
Any questions? Seeing none. Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Morganelli,
Yes.
Oniski,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Bean,
Yes.
Beltrandy,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Figgy,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Mello.
Yes.
Congratulations, Chris. Well done. Thanks for the work.
No, thank you to
Just
the
a-
council and the mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We
Just-
appreciate that.
Just a point of order. I think we need 2 readings on the money over that size, over 2,000.
Because
Just
it's
to be
immediate.
safe.
From free cash?
Any appropriation over 2. I thought it was 2 readings, but
No. You want to move to a second? I'm happy to do that.
I think just in case, yeah.
I'd second the motion then.
One of the first times we've ever done that, but
Not with the 20,000 number, I don't think.
Look, belt and suspenders, I'd rather do it and
Yeah, do it right.
wrong,
Right.
but I agree. I don't think it's necessary, but let's belt and suspenders it. So
I think Councilor Flaherty.
Councilor Flaherty's
Yeah,
motion.
I just think he likes roll call votes. I really do. I really, really
I
do.
like hearing everybody's name. I like reading what's on the bottom of the screen. It's real funny.
So we are moving for second reading and final passage. Is that the motion?
Yes,
Can someone make that?
I just did.
I
yeah.
second Councilor Flaherty's motion.
All right. Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Morganelli,
Yes.
Oniski,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Bean,
Yes.
Beltrandy,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Figgy,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Mello.
Thank
Now,
you again.
congratulations, Chris.
Thank you again.
Tear down some buildings. Do we have to vote? on-
Anything else from the council? I'm sorry. Anything else from the council before we adjourn? Councilor Figgy.
Yes, 2 things. I just like to let the council be aware that 79 students got vaccinated at the high school and the middle school today due to the efforts of Superintendent Zaporowski and his staff. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. The second thing is hopefully tomorrow morning, I will have the schedule of all the department budget review, finance committee as a whole meetings for the council to be distributed. I am putting the final tweaks to it, so it should be out tomorrow. The next thing on the budget will be on June 10th, where we will have a public hearing at 6. And then starting at 7, we will have the school department, the law department, the assessor, and the treasurer collector. So those hearings will be first, then we have the weekend, and we start on Monday, and we have a ton. Thank you.
Thank you for warning us, Mr. Chairman.
You have been warned.
Anything else from the council? Councilor Harris?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Morganelli,
Yes.
Oniski,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Bean,
Yes.
Beltrandy,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Figgy,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Mello.
Yes.
Great. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Night,
Have a nice
everybody.
weekend, guys.
Good night.